Hello, everyone. Welcome into Simply Life. I'm Keith Casebolt, my dear friend who always brings a smile to my face, Gary C. Johnson.
Wonderful to be here. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the frailties of being human.
Now, wait a minute, Gary. None of our friends have any of those frailties of being human, do we?
And we will start with the one of the 4 agreements from that little book, The 4 Agreements of Being Impeccable with the Word.
Oh.
Now, how many times, Keith, in our life, have we failed to be impeccable and be careful about what we were saying?
I would imagine just about every time that we have opened our lips and let words come out of our mouth.
Without thinking.
Without thinking. Yes.
And then when you look at what people may have said 20 or 30 years ago, and someone had a recording of it,
Mm-hmm.
and they're trying to do something today, but because of that frailty of opening their mouth without thinking,
Absolutely.
maybe as a joke or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
it's brought up against them many, many years later when they're trying to do something.
And Gary, I don't really understand why we're doing that in society. I've been doing this program with you for 20 years. I do not resemble in any way, shape, or form the individual that started doing this program with you 20 years ago that I am today. I can tell people that. I'm completely different. I'm happier. I'm calmer. There's things I would never say or do. I have learned a lot. I'm not the same person from 20 years ago, but unfortunately, in this day and time, whatever I said 20 years ago can and will still be held against me.
If someone has recorded it or made a record of it.
Yes.
And that's why, my friends, especially if there's any younger folks that are listening, be careful about what you say.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have a life ahead of you. And you never know when you may want to run for some very important position or apply for some really, really good job, and someone goes and finds a recording of you
Mm-hmm.
saying something stupid because you're human.
Yeah.
And my friends, I guarantee you that every one of you, being human, have said some things in your life that you probably today wish you hadn't said.
You think?
I think there's a high probability that all my friends are human.
Gary, I absolutely cringe at the thought of what did I write in the yearbook? What did I say when I was 17 or 18? How did I conduct myself when I was 20 or 25? I'm 55 now, but I look back on it because now I see you've talked to us, and I understand, and I don't want to do those things. I don't want to make those mistakes of not being impeccable with the word, but I realize that I've done it millions of times.
It is one of the hardest things to do,
Mm-hmm.
is to be careful about what you say.
Absolutely.
Because your brain wants to kick that mouth in gear before it ever actually thinks about what you're going to be saying.
The old unsolicited advice that you've warned us about it. I told you about a thing over the weekend about an individual who felt they had to give unsolicited advice because it was the truth. And it didn't work out very well.
It never works out when you give unsolicited advice. Those of you that are listening, think back on it. You started giving advice that no one asked you for. How'd it turn out?
Turns out bad.
The best you could hope for is that their resentment stays hidden. That's the best you could hope for.
Not that they forgive you, that
Right.
they just decide to hide the fact they resent
Or
what
to
you
slough
said.
it off to your ignorance or something.
Oh, yeah. We've all been there and done that, haven't we?
But I think the good Lord, when He made us, put us here with all these frailties to test us so He could have some fun watching us.
I have you told me if you turn this into a game, you're going to have a whole lot of fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what I've tried to do in my life. I've turned it into a game to catch myself when I'm breaking the rules, to try to stop myself before I do break the rules, to acknowledge when other people do it. It's a full-time job, my friend.
Well, you take the impeccable with the word rule, and what that basically means is don't say anything that you would not care to be broadcast on the radio or TV or in an auditorium. Now, how many of you would find yourself keeping your mouth shut on a whole lot of occasions where you have opened your mouth?
I don't know that we would talk very much.
Hmm?
I don't know that we would even talk very much. And, I know a lot of us are sitting here going, but Gary, I was joking. I was among friends. I was only kidding. I joined in the conversation. Down deep, I really didn't mean that. How's that for all the excuses?
Well, you probably didn't.
Doesn't matter, though, right?
If somebody recorded it, it's out there. And someday it may come back to haunt you. So, my friends, to the extent you can, especially you younger folks that are getting started in life that may be listening to this, try your best to be impeccable with the word. Now, the other frailty that we have, which is exactly what the 4 agreements address, is making assumptions. Now, what do I mean by that? We're in a situation where we have a relationship or whatever with someone, and we start assuming what they're thinking. We start assuming what they're doing. And we start getting mad and mad and mad and madder and madder and madder and madder because we've made these assumptions, and they don't even know what we're talking about. They don't even know that they're supposed to have done it.
Isn't that fantastic? I mean, you are so right. How many people have said, I know what you were thinking.
Yeah.
I know what you had in mind.
Right.
I know why you did that.
And so to the extent you can, my friends, try not to make assumptions. If something is hurting you or making you feel bad, communicate. Ask about it. And ask a person, what's going on? It can't be any worse than how mad you're going to get making the assumption.
Now that you point this out, I've heard people actually say, so-and-so's not a very nice person. And I said, oh, did you have a bad experience? No, never met them. But I just know they're not a nice person.
Based on an assumption.
Based upon an assumption, or somebody not being impeccable with the word. And then all of a sudden, you assume this, and you go around telling everybody that this person's not a nice person, and you've never had a conversation with them.
In other words, you go around not being impeccable with the word.
You're breaking 2 of the rules. You're assuming and then not being impeccable with the word by going ahead and spreading your assumption.
But the assumptions, I used to call it imagined slights.
Mm-hmm.
That a person, when you feel like you've been slighted and it's in your imagination because of an assumption, the other person can't fix it because they don't know what it is. They don't know what that slight that you've imagined is.
Isn't that the toughest thing of all?
And those are the ones that are the hard. You can't overcome them.
I've actually had, since I've done this program with you, I've actually reached out to a couple of people and said, I have no idea if I've done anything to you or said anything. If I have, I would be more than glad to apologize, if you can tell me what it is. And if I did it, I'll really apologize.
Because you may not know.
You don't know.
You may not know you hurt someone's feeling.
You don't know that somebody used your name and you were never involved in the conversation.
So, my friends, this comes as the frailties of being human, trying to survive in this world, right?
Absolutely.
Another one of those is do the best you can do. You say, well, I am. Are you measuring what you can do based upon what you can do or what someone else can do? That's the question. Because each and every person has a talent or something that they can do. In other words, the good Lord would not have let you be born unless you had something. He didn't send you out here to survive with nothing to fall back on.
Absolutely right.
But if you look at what someone else has got and you envy them, then you have said to the good Lord, you made the wrong decision for me.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in reality, your talent for you is exactly what you're supposed to have. You're just as good as that other person. You're just different. And what's wrong with being different? Nothing. It's wonderful.
You remember when you pointed out on the television, you said, just think if every male in the world all looked like George Clooney and there was only one Gary C. Johnson. Wow.
Would I be handsome?
You would be in demand, right? Because everybody else would look like George Clooney and there's only one Gary C. Completely different.
Well, there's only one of each and every one of you. That's the point.
Gary,
there will never be another one of you.
On doing the best you can do, you pointed out the best that you can do. Sometimes we'll say, okay, well, that's the best I could do. But down deep, we know, if we could have done more, if we could have worked harder at it, if we could have tried harder, we know that answer.
That's right.
I mean, that comes with accountability. I love the story from the book you gave me. I think it was Henry Kissinger. His speechwriter wrote the speech and brought in to him. And Kissinger said, is that the best you can do? And he grabbed it and walked out of the room, and he came back 2 days later, and he laid it down, and Kissinger said, is that the best you can do? And he grabbed it, and he took it away, and he came back the third time, and he laid it down, and he said, now what do you think? He said, is it the best you can do? And he said, yes. He said, okay, then I'll read it. But we know when we haven't given our best effort.
And really and truly, one of the frailties of being human is to not necessarily want to do your best.
We're going to make that excuse, huh?
Because the old slick chatterbox is telling you, well, you only have to do this much or that much or whatever.
This will get by.
This will be fine. It doesn't have to be the best you can do.
Yeah, you can get by with this.
Again, it comes with the frailties of being human.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Right? But being impeccable with the word is one of the hardest things, my friends, you will ever try to do.
And you pointed out on your television program the other day that when you're being impeccable, it doesn't just mean not saying something bad. You pointed out how individuals can say things, when it comes to time, dates, memory, and they're not necessarily not telling the truth. They simply just don't remember, but instead of saying, I don't remember, they choose to give an answer when they shouldn't have.
I guarantee you that my friends have been caught in this mess before. The mess I'm talking about is this. Someone asks you something, and you give an answer as though it's the truth of what happened, and you're doing it based on assumptions.
Yes.
Or what someone else has said.
Is it because you're embarrassed that you can't remember?
For some reason, when someone asks us something, we feel compelled to give an answer. It is so hard, especially in a lawsuit, to get my clients to say, I don't remember.
I just don't know.
Or I don't know.
Yeah.
Because our first instinct is, if we're asked something, we give an answer.
Is it another one of those human frailties? We want to be right?
I guess it's that instinct or craving to be important or whatever it is that kicks in. But we tend to want to answer a question, even though we really and truly, from first-hand knowledge, don't have a clue. But we're making assumptions.
Yeah.
Or someone else said.
Gary,
or they said.
Listen, back in the summer, a bunch of my buddies and I had this conversation. 30-some years ago, we, as young men, we all went to Florida. We tried to remember where we went, where we stayed, who was in the group. We've called and texted and discussed. Everybody was wrong. nobody had the right information. Now, this was only a short 30-some years ago with good friends, but we had the wrong hotel. Mm-hmm. We had the wrong dates. We had the wrong people in the group. It wasn't just one of us. It was all of us.
That's the way it is.
Of course, now I argued for a long time that I was right.
You were the only one that knew, right?
I did. I really thought I was right, but I wasn't.
The other one that we need to talk about, since we're talking about the 4 agreements, is never take anything personal. Now, you talk about a biggie. That's
a biggie.
Because we have a tendency, my friends, and I think it's another frailty that we have to live with, to no matter what happens, to think it's directed toward us. That they did that because they wanted...
Out to get me.
Yeah, they're out to get me.
100%.
Well, you had to make an assumption to get there.
Yeah.
And then you had to take it personal.
Then you had to not be impeccable with the word by telling people.
Then you had to go bad-mouthing somebody because of it.
Oh, they didn't want me to have that job.
Make sure you weren't impeccable.
Yeah, they worked against me. They held me back. Isn't it amazing how those 4 run together? That when you assume, then you no longer impeccable with the word, you take it personal, and because you're upset, you stop doing your best. I mean, the 4 are so uniquely connected.
And I'm convinced that when he wrote that book, The 4 Agreements, the fellow, that he was thinking about the frailties of being human. Because when you violate those rules, it's a frailty of being human.
It really is.
And trust me, my friends, you will violate them.
Oh,
no human being that's human can keep from violating those rules.
You know, I've got to tell, we've got new friends listening to us on this program. When you first put out the be impeccable with the word, I was on a trip with my mother and father, and I said, let's see how we do in the car today about being impeccable with the wood. I said, every time somebody says something that's not impeccable, we'll put down a line on the paper. Within about 2.5 hours, we had a picket fence and a log cabin built. And Gary, we were trying.
That's right.
We were watching each other and catching each other. And in our daily conversation, time and time again, we were not being impeccable with the word.
So, my friends, try your best to not go overboard with being impeccable with the word. In other words, do the best you can do, considering you're a human being.
That's all you can do.
Do the best you can do in making assumptions, considering you're a human being. Do the best you can do in not taking anything personal, considering you're a human being. And try not to be jealous of that person, and do the best you can do and not worry about what the best someone else could do.
But what you're telling us is these are frailties of being human. We've all got them. We're all going to fail at them. But if you take a lighthearted approach like you've taught us, and you start catching it, and you stop a few, and you do better, you're going to be happier.
That's a lot happier, a whole lot happier. If you can just master those things just a little bit, you'll be happier because you'll stay out of trouble.
Isn't being aware of them the first step?
The game I want you folks to play that's listening to this is start watching people break those rules. And you will find it fascinating how often that you see people breaking those rules.
In public and open.
Everywhere.
You'll start saying to yourself, now I understand doing that in private, but they just did it in public.
But it's a fascinating world out there. It's well worth living. Remember, my friends, you're one of a kind. You're unique. No question about it. There'll never be another one like you. Try to be happy to the best of your possible ability that you have.
And you know, Gary, that's the whole reason you're doing this program. We've got people listening right now that have real legit reasons not to be happy. They're injured. They're hurt. Their lives have been torn upside down.
Bad diagnosis.
They've got bad diagnosis. They've lost a loved one. You're sitting here saying, if you don't have any of those major things in your life, then listen to these words I'm telling you and try to be happier or happy as you can be, because there's some bad things that go on.
If you don't have some of those major things going on in your life, there's really, my friends, not much excuse for you not to have some happiness.
Did you really get into this when you started seeing people walk through your door that you would have given a pass to complain, criticize, condemn, or whatever, but yet they chose not to, and they tried to be happy, and you were sitting there going, if this person can do this, and they've got all these problems, why can't I?
Then I said to myself, yeah, you're an absolute idiot if you waste 1 minute of your dash if you don't have problems like they've got.
There's a sin. Yeah, I agree with you. That's a true sin, to take this life for granted and the happiness that you can have by breaking all those rules when you don't have the problems of that other person.
So, my friends, have a wonderful week.
Yes.
Honestly. It's an exciting time. We've actually had some really good weather.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely, life is worth living. It's an exciting time. And so, my friends, look around you, watch people break these rules, and smile when you watch them break it.
So now, to our friends, Gary just talked to you about all the reasons why you should be smiling and you should have a good week and you should be happy, because that's what we want for you. That's what started. Unfortunately, we mentioned sometimes bad things happen. And Gary, that's what you do. You try to help people that have had horrible things happen to them, and you try as best you can to bring some relief.
Well, I once said I change people's lives one at a time. I was probably wrong, because those people that I deal with changed my life. They changed me, I didn't change them.
And that's why we're doing this program, and that's why we're talking about the happiness and the lessons. And as you always say, if it's just one person that gets it, just one person,
then the whole show and everything was worth it.
And man, I'm telling you, every time somebody comes up to you or me, no matter where we're at, and says, I like this quote, or I liked what you said, or I listened to the program, or I watched the television program, I feel really good, because I feel like this person got some happiness, or they got some information that maybe they didn't have. And that's a good feeling.
Well, happiness, if you don't have any major health problems or injuries, is a choice, my friend. So make the choice to be happy.
What was your great quote? You'll only be as happy as you choose to be.
That's right.
Yeah.
What did Henry Ford say that time about success? He says, if you think you can do it or you think you can't do it, you're right.
You're right either way. Thank you so much for tuning in to us. You can catch Gary's television show on WYMT, your CBS affiliate, Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock. Gary and I are kind of adjusting to the new set. Give us time. We're working on it. You can also catch a late-night replay in Central Kentucky on WKYT, your CBS affiliate. If by chance one of those bad things in life does fall upon you, you can always contact Gary if you have questions or you need his help, Gary at GaryCJohnson.com. My friend, it's always good to visit, because I end up smiling more when you're here.
It's a wonderful world, my friend.
It is indeed. On behalf of Gary C. Johnson, I'm Keith Casebolt. Thank you so much for taking this time to join us. As always, Gary and I look forward to seeing you again next week, right here at this very same time.